Hello guys, and welcome to my first sit down video of 2021. Today we are talking about smear tests, we are talking about cervixes, we are talking about biopsies. This is such an important video I'm about to film, and if it helps just one person go out there and book their smear test, then I'm gonna be a very happy girl, and everything I've been through will all have been worth it. I have spoken loads about smear tests and my experience with them in the past. I've been very open and documented kind of the fact that my first smear test came back with pre-cancerous cells. Basically wanted to give an overview of my journey today with smear tests because it's super important, and numbers recently for women attending their smear tests have been at a really at an all-time low, and that is why it's so important that you book yours in, because you never know what the results are going to find. I would also like to highlight the fact that this week Joe's Cervical Cancer Trust, which I'm an ambassador of very proudly, it is their Smear for Smear campaign, and you can get involved in the campaign and learn more about smear tests and what goes on and the process and any support that you might need going through it or afterwards. You can find all of that from Joe's Cervical Cancer Trust. So yeah, if you want to get involved with the campaign, go and check out the hashtag down below. I'm going to be posting mine on my Instagram soon. I kind of want this video to also debunk some of the myths about smear tests being really painful and really embarrassing, because it is not at all. It could end up saving your life. In my opinion, this isn't like a negotiable, oh, I could go for my smear test but I can't be bothered. Like, you need to go for your smear test. I would also like to say here that this is of course my experience. I know that for a lot of girls, especially girls with endometriosis or vaginismus or FGM, have difficult experiences with their smear test, and it might be a little bit more painful and it might be harder, but that shouldn't put you off. I basically just want to urge you that this is so important and it could help save your life. So if you or your friends are due a smear test, get the conversation talking about it. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. So in the UK, around your 25th birthday, every girl should receive a letter from their doctor saying, come into our GP surgery and get your smear test done. When my letter came through, I think it was just before my 25th birthday, I was super excited because this is something that I've always seen and read about, and not only was it okay, I'm a woman now, I'm a proper woman, I get my smear test. I grew up seeing my mum go and get her smear tests, and I was really excited about it, and it was fine. The smear test itself was over really quickly. They found my cervix really quickly. I remember being a little bit worried about the speculum that they insert. It's kind of like a duck bill they insert to get a clearer view of your cervix so they can take your smear test swab. The smear test is over so quickly. It's just like a big cotton buds, and they just open your vagina, take a swab. It's over in a couple of seconds and super easy. Mine was fine. This is just going to be my experience with my story, so if you are really concerned, talk to your GP. I'm not a doctor. There is help, professional medical help out there if you need it. I will leave all resources down below. So from my first ever smear test, my results came back and they showed that I had pre-cancerous cells on my cervix, and of course I was freaking the fuck out. I was like, oh my god, how long have they been there? If I hadn't have gone and got this, what could have happened? I was booked in for a colposcopy at my local hospital. So if your smear test comes back with kind of abnormalities or precancerous cells, you get booked into a hospital, a proper hospital, and a colposcopy is where they basically take a better look at your cervix. So a proper team, proper specialists will again similarly put your legs up in stirrups and get a close look at your cervix. I remember they used some dye on my cervix to get a better picture of it, and they also had a camera looking at my cervix on a big screen, and I remember them being like, do you want to have a look? And I was like, no, I do not want to see that. I just had a feeling it would make me go ugh, get all weird about it. But yeah, they put the dye on my cervix and they found, yeah, it was not looking good basically. So they took a biopsy then and there, which wasn't very nice, but it had to be done. They explained to me at that point that when you have a biopsy, that can actually help reverse some of the effects of precancerous abnormal cells. You're kind of taking a little part out of that. New cells can grow and just recover itself basically. So I was really praying for that to happen. But my biopsy results came back pretty bad. I was told that I had CIN3, which is an abnormality in the cells that line the cervix being the neck of the womb. It is an abnormality which, if undetected and untreated over a number of years, can develop into cervical cancer. CIN3 is pretty much the worst kind of infection you can have. I say infection, that's probably not the right term for it, but it says here high grade lesions, CIN3, usually take many years to develop into a cancer. Just in reference, CIN1 is unlikely the cells will become cancerous, so they might just go away on themselves. CIN2, there's a moderate chance. CIN3, there's a really high chance that the cells can become cancerous. And so from that, I was booked in again for another biopsy. I can't remember what the timeline was of this. I think it might have been a year and a half later, because obviously waiting times between appointments and getting results back. So I was probably around 26, 27 at this point, where I was booked in for my second colposcopy. So this one was a little bit more intense. I was given a loop biopsy, which is basically like an electrical loop that they like just skim the cervix with to take off a bigger chunk of it, to then test again and hopefully remove those cells so that they don't turn into anything more sinister. I was awake for all of this. I took my mum with me for this appointment too. They numbed the cervix as well, which was probably the worst bit about it, because I saw the needle and it was quite big. Like, it had to be quite long in order to kind of reach up where it was. And yeah, the whole process wasn't very nice, and the aftercare was pretty savage as well. This treatment was the first time I've actually ever fainted in my life. I think it was definitely more to do with kind of the adrenaline and the shock rather than the pain of it. I don't remember it being very painful to begin with. So I would recommend, if you're going for that, take some paracetamol beforehand and take like some fizzy drinks. Take some Lucozade or some Dr. Pepper with you to get your blood sugar levels up beforehand. Yeah, I just remember kind of, I couldn't see anything, but I could hear what people were saying. But after that, I was pretty much given the all clear for about 3 years. They said that they didn't need to check me for another 3 years, which is awesome. So it was definitely a great bit of peace of mind that for 3 years I could kind of just get on with my life and not worry about it, and until my next smear test, which was in 2019. I went for my second smear test. I'm gonna leave a vlog down below because I actually vlogged that day and talk a little bit about my smear test story there. This smear test was a little bit more difficult. I think my cervix had become quite a lot higher, so it took 3 different speculums for the nurse to be able to find my cervix in the first place, and took a lot of like shuffling and like lifting my bum up and doing Kegel exercises for her to finally find my cervix. But once she found it, it was fine. It was over really quickly, not very painful. I always kind of tense up when, obviously, I think most people do, when there's something kind of robotic and weird going in. I guess my best tip for if you're like really worried about the speculum is, firstly, don't worry, they'll lube it up so it isn't rough, like it goes in quite smoothly. Just chill out as much as you can, because it will make the whole process so much easier. That smear test, I'm happy to announce, came back fine. So I think, I'm not sure how often you have to go for your smear test now. It might be every 3 years or every 5 years, but I like dread to think what could have happened if I hadn't have gone for my first smear test. I would never have known that I had these pre-cancerous cells, that I had like high grade lesions that could led to something quite serious. And I was only 25, like it was my first smear test. So if you've been putting it off, please, please, please book it in. For anyone who is booked in for a biopsy or a LET treatment, I'd just like to give you some tips. Paracetamol, fizzy drinks, as I said. The worst bit about the 2 biopsies and procedures I had for sure was the like aftercare of it. For a whole month, 4 weeks after my procedures, I wasn't allowed to have sex, have a bath, use tampons, and I was bleeding pretty heavily. Like, I had to wear pads for pretty much maybe, oh god, the cat on my lap, 3 weeks to a month, because I was bleeding really heavily. I remember there was one night where I woke up and had completely bled through my pad. So just take sanitary towels with you to your appointment, because you're going to want to put those on as soon as you've had your treatment. Take fizzy drinks, take paracetamol, take someone that you trust and you would like with you, who can help help you get back home afterwards, because it's kind of jarring, and it's a scary procedure because you just, oh my god, I'm dropping tea all over me. It's a scary procedure, but it is, both treatments are over quite quickly. And I went to Queen's Hospital in Romford, and the nurses, the NHS staff there are incredible. I'd also like to quickly say that if you are worried about going for your smear test because you don't want someone else to be looking like deep in your vagina, they do this day in, day out. They have seen so many vaginas, including their own, and it's really nothing to be embarrassed about. If you feel self-conscious about the way your vagina looks, I would recommend watching Naked Attraction on Channel 4 4OD. That programme always reminds me that there are so many different bodies out there, and it always makes me feel better about myself because it reminds me that we're all different but we're all still very beautiful. Please don't let the thought of someone else seeing your private parts, like, it's not in a sexual way, they're not going to be judging you. Living a nice, healthy, happy life is so much more important. I would love to hear your experiences with smear tests in the comments, or message me on Instagram. Like, let's talk about this. It's really important, and as I said, it's nothing to be embarrassed about. But I love you guys lots. Join in with the Smear for Smear campaign if you can, and I will see you soon.